What's up guys, it's your host Spartanic Arts DxD back with another high school DxD related video. And today we have What If Issei Was Overpowered, Part 1. When Issei was slaughtered by his girlfriend, instead of Rias appearing, Lucifer appears. You see, the magic circle that Rias gave was mistaken for the one that Lucifer was given. Lucifer says, "Interesting, but for a human to be involved with the supernatural, I can't allow this." Lucifer, feeling empathy, and deciding to do the best thing for a human, used two mutated pawns to revive Issei. There must have been a reason why this human was involved with the supernatural. Issei is extremely strong in this story. Side note, Issei took up two mutated pawn pieces from Sir Zex's thing. Sir Zex's pawn pieces are more powerful than Rias's, so his two mutated pawn pieces are way more than 8 of Rias's, so yes, he's just as overpowered as a pawn piece, just for reference. Let's try to hit 800 likes for this video. I cannot thank you enough for all the support, and a huge shout out to all my balance breakers. Rob the King, Lachlan Yates, Atomic Warlord 58, Crumbling Darkness Sphere, Madly Wolf 333, Ant Lewis, The Beast YT3, Shade Fox, VR Wolf hashtag 2347, Sinrar Q, Jordan Patchow, Mazaku, Dr_MLG_ is the bomb, Asamotus, Grim Fireshot Gamer, Brandon Lieutenant Riley, Jonah Levinson. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. Remember, if you guys want to see what ifs on Goku or other what ifs, just subscribe to my second channel, linked down in the description below. And let's try to hit 100 likes. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into part 1. Chapter 1. A black feathered woman was seen floating in the air, staring down upon the unfortunate being. Her name was Rainier, and she was aiming for the murderer of an innocent child, scheming inside of a small territory of Ko. She was hoping that everything would go along with their plan flawlessly, allowing her to prove herself to her leaders. However, getting back with the two beings, Rainier had finally set foot down upon the water fountain's top. "Sorry, Issei, but you are a potential thorn in my plan. If you have anyone to blame, it's your mother and God," Rainier says. "Wait, that doesn't make sense," Issei replies. She quickly formed a light spear while aiming straight at Issei. Frozen in fear and confusion, he was directly penetrated by the woman's attack, leaving him stunned at the pain. Splash! Forced to drop onto the ground, the force exerted by the powerful throw of the light spear from the fallen angel, Issei was beginning to form a massive puddle of blood. "May you see peace, boy," Rainier says. She chuckled before soaring into the sky. Issei Hyoda was betrayed by his first girlfriend. Rainier, that was her name, had dated him just to kill him. "I won't die," Issei says. Issei reached his hand out into the air. He forced himself to stand, looking around only to see red, blood dripping down his stomach while a massive hole could be seen near the right side of his gut. "No, I can't go out like this," Issei says. Frustration was all that he could feel when knowing that he was killed by someone that he trusted, someone that he actually gave his love to. "Damn, Rainier, I will get you back for this," Issei says. His emotions were going all over the place. His desire to live was enough to trigger something deep within his body. Quickly, a red gauntlet was formed in his hand. He didn't care about the gauntlet but finally dropped to his knees. The magic circle that was given to him, which he didn't know was a magic circle but thought it was a random satanic circle and some cult trying to recruit him, began glowing red. When the poor fellow finally dropped onto the ground dead, a person slowly walked out of the magic circle. The sky around began changing colors. When seeing this being appear, the ground slightly shook when the woman in armor had appeared in front of the boy. The Lucifer was in front of the Red Dragon Emperor, but she didn't know that. By the way, for context, Lucifer is a woman in this scenario, in this story. The red gauntlet had been dismissed when the boy had died, leaving the Lucifer staring at the boy, trying to figure out why she was summoned. "What has happened? Why was I summoned?" Sir Zex says. The Lucifer immediately knelt to the boy, inspecting his wound. Seeing the wound, she could easily depict that the child was penetrated straight through the chest by either an angel or a fallen angel. Knowing that angels wouldn't kill a human without a given reason, the fallen must have messed with him, especially when Sir Zex had been informed about the fallen's inner territory. "Poor child, you didn't deserve to die at such a young age," Sir Zex says. Sir Zex, after many years since the Devil Civil War, had changed from her cold leader-like personality, which earned her fame of Lucifer. Seeing the child in front of her, she could tell that he had been tearing up. His eyes were still leaking tears. Sir Zex pulled out the 2 mutated pawn pieces. She nearly had a complete barrage, having 8 members that are considered to be the strongest of their class. She didn't need a strong person anymore. Kneeling, she decided to use one of the pawns to revive the child. What? It didn't work? What the? Sir Zex says. She tried with both of the pieces, and finally, Issei was the pawn piece of the Lucifer. Now, since you are involved with the supernatural world, I will take responsibility for allowing you to adapt to this world, even if I must train you to the core. I'll just have to make sure that council doesn't get a word from you, or else they will cause conflict with us. Sir Zex could sense the energy boost which Issei received from turning into a devil. Sir Zex lifted the child, carrying him away while forming a magic circle. She was going to make sure that Issei was prepared for the events to come. By becoming her pawn, he will have standards to meet. That didn't leave out Sir Zex from not having the responsibility of training Issei. However, thanks to the power boost of turning into a devil in Issei's last dying will, a certain red dragon had awoken. Drake. To see the current Lucifer turn my partner into a pawn is quite an interesting turn of events, Drake says. When hearing the voice coming from the red gauntlet, placed in the right hand of the boy, Sir Zex Lucifer looked down with shock. The boy was unfortunate enough to have this power, which resulted in him being targeted. Lucifer was finally beginning to piece the parts together. Greetings, Welt's dragon, Sir Zex says. Showing some respect to the ancient dragon, Sir Zex was astonished in seeing the youngster being a host of a powerful Longina's sacred gear. Drake quickly retorted with some respect with himself towards the current Lucifer. With a deep and rough tone, he began speaking. Greetings, Sir Zex Lucifer, the strongest devil in existence. I have heard many rumors about you through many hosts. Interesting to see that we have finally met, Drake said. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you as well. Looks as if we'll be working together for a while, especially with the lifespan of a devil, Sir Zex says. I don't mind that. Working with someone as respectable as you wouldn't be that bad of an idea, Drake said. Drake, the heavenly dragon who had been placed fear into millions upon millions of beings during the Great War, even in his prime. Not even the Satans were able to handle the power of a heavenly dragon. It took the power of the god of the biblical faction to defeat the 2 heavenly dragons in their prime. Seeing 2 beings who were in the top 10 casually speaking with one another in quite a rare scene. However, there was one thing that Sir Zex's mind that she needed to get off her chest. Drake. Have you gone through your host's memory? Sir Zex said. Wanting to understand the man in front of her more, she needed to understand how he died. Even if the boy didn't want to tell her the truth, she needed to know if this was a sign of war. Messing around with her little sister's territory, which could easily take back, was something she didn't seem to agree upon too lightly. The ancient dragon gradually began speaking, seeing through his host's memory. He was killed by his girlfriend, Drake said. Sir Zex widened her eyes in shock. Hearing such a thing was unusual, seeing the boy in her hands. Imagine the pain he must have been feeling after such an event. Sir Zex knew that his memories were going to be even after his revival, but she would need to take slow steps in helping the boy. Drake continued inspecting the memories of his host. He noticed that his host was a massive pervert, but was the usual for the teenagers around his age. He could easily bypass such details currently until it actually begins to take effect in battle, Sir Zex says. He gave her everything, love, an amazing time, and even a great time, but she betrayed his trust and brutally killed him, Drake said. Sir Zex heard those words. How could those fallen manipulate a human being like that? Her anger was beginning the ground to shake, destroying whatever magical presence within the area. The entire supernatural group within the territory were going to be surprised with this presence, as it was shaking. Issei's body began shaking, when the being impacted by the pressure, purplish aura beginning to expand from Lucifer. Lucifer, there is no need to contempt of the past, but aim for the brighter future. Look around you, we're inside the human world, Drake says. Hearing that, the ancient dragon's words, Sir Zex realized this and began to power down. Sir Zex sighed and walked towards a magical circle which she formed. Hopefully, Graphia doesn't scornfully attack me for ditching work, Sir Zex says. Once appearing in her massive home, she decided to heal the boy before anything could happen. She would deal with the repercussions afterward. Scene change. Rias Gremory could be seen waiting patiently for whatever Fallen were planning until she felt the sister's power entering her territory. Her expression quickly changed to one of fear when sensing her sister's overwhelming presence appear in the human world. Trembling in fear, what if her sister was able to sense the Fallen and knew that they were? What if she lost control of the things and they would what they've been doing? That would be the end of his entire town. Akeno, Rias says, a black-haired woman with rivaling body to Rias, was seen shaking when sensing the energy. Rias, we have to check on what's happening. Akeno says, are you sure? What if Big Sis doesn't want me to bother her? Rias replied. Rias was worried. There are times when her older sister was vividly furious when she wouldn't want anyone to be around her. But there were times where she would need someone to be there for her to calm her down. Rias sighed. She didn't know what to do in this situation. Rias, you are my king. The decision is up to you, not me, Akeno replies. Rias didn't want to be a hindrance to Lucifer. However, the energy signature suddenly appeared in the same spot where the fallen angel was supposedly dating Issei. Rias, Akeno says, what the hell just happened? Rias replied. She was trying her best to understand the situation that had just happened, but nothing was clicking together due to her stress and panic. Honestly, I don't know, Akeno says. Akeno shrugged her shoulders, not knowing what to say to Rias. She didn't want her false accusations, yet about her situations, Rias sighed and leaned back in her chair while staring into endless night sky. You know that? We're done for today's work, Rias says. Wait, we did work? Akeno replied. Of course. Every day we work as hard as ever to make sure that this territory is up to shape, Rias says. Akeno interrupted Rias' entire claim with a doubtful tone. But weren't you just sitting down on your I said we're done with work today, Rias says. Akeno sighed. Sometimes teasing with Rias would anger her to make her act like this. Other times it was hilarious. She would just leave the situation like this. Great. I'll be going to the tea shop. Call me if you need me, Akeno says. Rias nodded, and Akeno left through the door while humming a harmonic tone. And that is the end of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Issei woke up in the middle of the white void, but there seems to be something behind him. Slowly, he turned his head to see flames of pure condensed heat burning the ground near him. Stirring a figure that was being enveloped by smoke emitted by the flames, Issei's fear increased when hearing the deep and rough voice of the figure. Backing away while he stumbled upon his own foot, Issei dropped on the ground while continuously staring at the being in front. So you are my host. My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined, Drake says. Issei looked at the dragon, who had finally stopped producing flames. He could see a massive dragon covered in red scales and a serious facial expression glaring straight at him, seemingly straight through his soul. What? A dragon? Issei says. No, I'm a fucking human with red skin. Of course I'm a fucking dragon, Drake says. Drake sarcastically retorted before seeing Issei's confused expression. Sighing with annoyances, hopefully this host actually knows how to stand up to him, maybe creating some entertainment for the ancient dragon. Child, that black-feathered pigeon isn't going to be the only enemy you'll be making, Drake says. Issei, once hearing that, was brought out of his confusion, changing his facial expression to one of sadness, knowing of his betrayal. Drake, seeing this, sensing his host's emotions, knew that going through and remembering such an event wasn't an easy task, but he didn't want to be soft on his host. He was getting into the world filled with monsters that even that pigeon would be considered non-existent next to. Boy, that black-feathered woman is someone you must fight and kill. Those types of people, especially the greedy ones, are ones you must slay, Drake says. Issei, immersing himself with the information he was receiving from the ancient dragon, decided to take those words, keep them deep within his mind when he could process what was happening to him. Wait, who is he even speaking with? How is he even speaking with a dragon? Lifting his head, staring into the dragon's eyes, Issei asked a quick question. Wait a minute, who are you? Drake says. Issei says, my bad. Drake knew that such a word was coming and was contemplating either telling the truth or allowing Issei's new king to explain the situation. Well, my boy, my name is Drake, and I am a dragon, Drake says. Stating his name with pride and puffing out his chest, Issei nodded while the ancient dragon decided to stop speaking about who he was and why he was in front of the boy. Let's say that we'll be seeing each other soon, Drake says. Issei was beginning to disappear from the mindscape. Issei's confusion was preventing him from panicking. He didn't know where or how he was there, who that dragon was, or how he was even breathing. The dragon huffed once more, smoke blasting out of his nose while he looked upon Issei as if as an insignificant being. The dragon slowly began to open his jaw, while roughly speaking. "You're just leaving this realm, boy," Drake says. That didn't do anything. Issei began running around until he entirely disappeared from the boosted gear's mind. Drake huffed in disappointment in seeing how childish his host acted. He was going to have a difficult time with his current host. However, there was hope with the current Lucifer being his king. Maybe he could obtain enough power to continuously hold up the title of the Red Dragon Emperor. "For my centuries of living, this boy has already piqued my interest as well as disappointing me. Two feelings at the same time. Only time will tell which feeling is the correct one," Drake says to himself. Drake closed his eyes and dismissed the flames. This was going to be an interesting ride. Hopefully he doesn't run into a certain blue dragon. Scene change. "So, you're finally awake," Sir says. Issei flooded his eyes, open to a red-haired woman sitting on a chair in front of him. Taking a few seconds to understand his surroundings, he knew it wasn't his room. That was apparent, seeing the dark and reddish-colored lights of the massive area of the room. Shifting his head from each side to see where he was lying upon, the bed which he was resting on was massive, easily as large as the entire room. "Like my room? Yeah, I don't really like the whole decorating the room thing that most women are into. I just personally like a simple open area for my room," Sir says. She joined Issei in glancing around her room until Issei finally noticed that the woman in front of him was someone he didn't know at all. "Wait," Issei says, widening his eyes in fear. He had watched hundreds of horror movies to know where this was going. Quickly backing up, he quickly saw Sir beginning to smirk while having a smile on her face. She was going to have fun with this. Sir Lucifer, a woman that was forced into training during the Devil's Civil War and became the main hero of the war, earning her name Lucifer for her accomplishments. However, during this time, she was restricted from freedom due to the massive paperwork and natural feelings of others, thinking of her as an almighty woman. It got bothersome over time when she began to soften up a bit. So having a little fun here, there was nothing she loved doing. "Wait, stay away! Who are you?" Issei says. Issei quickly glanced around the area to find a weapon to defend himself from Sir Lucifer. She immediately appeared in front of Issei and gave him a wicked smile. Closing his eyes and embracing impact, he instead received a flick, opening his eyes. He could see Sir Lucifer bursting into a fit of laughter while pointing at Issei's face. "What?" Issei says. Confusion, once more, appeared on the boy's face while staring at the scene in front of him. "Oh my Satan, you should have seen your face," Sir says. Okay, Issei was now getting annoyed. First, he met a dragon. Now he was kidnapped and might be tortured. Third, this woman was making fun of him. Fourth, how is he acting so calm? And finally, what the hell is happening? Okay, first, you may have questions, Sir says. Issei immediately fired her with a question. Composing himself in front of the mysterious woman, he quickly spoke away. "Who are you?" Issei says. "Should have seen that one coming. My name is Sir Lucifer, the current Lucifer of Hell," Sir says. She came out blunt and serious, which placed fear into Issei for some odd reason. The woman, seeing this, quickly began expanding her aura to make sure that her words were taken seriously. She didn't like doing this, but she needed Issei to follow along with what was happening with him in his new future life. For Issei, once he began seeing the condensed energetic reddish energy surrounding the woman, who reminded Issei of Rias Gremory, but with more mature features and far more intimidating presence. He began to gasp for some air. The presence was beginning to choke him. He had only just turned into a devil, which he didn't know he was experiencing the aura of a super devil who was toned down her power to an ultimate class devil. Once she saw the near unconscious Issei, she immediately stopped her aura and allowed for Issei to regain his breath. What? You know, human? Issei says. Speaking while breathing after each word, Sir chuckled while nodding. Showing her bat wings, Issei was shocked when seeing this, moving his brain while connecting some dots. He spoke, trying to connect with his ex. Both having wings, both having an amazing bodies, like seriously, an amazing body of both of them had this amazing power. Hold up, wait a minute. Are you related to that other feathered girl? Issei says. Amused by such a question, Sir sharply retorted a clear misunderstanding. No. That woman was a fallen angel, something different from my race, Sir says. Issei may not have known for being an intellectual type, but he knew some ideas of the supernatural world from stories. When seeing his first supernatural beings, Rainier, then seeing Drake, who was a massive fucking dragon, seeing Sir Zex was still shocking, but it wasn't as mind-breaking as if they've seen first. Using his mind, Issei thought of the possibilities. If a fallen angel had black feathered wings, then an angel would most likely have white feathered wings, leaving Sir Zex having only one option. She was a devil. Would you mean that you're a devil? Issei says. Quite an observant child. Yes, Issei Hyodo, I am what humans call a devil, Sir Zex says. That's so cool, Issei says. Issei screamed while staring at his wings, which were flapping around. Sir Zex was quite shocked when hearing those words. Usually from the rumors, most lower and less aware humans were disgusted by the wings that devils have. Seeing this, Issei contemplating her wings brought a small smile on Sir Zex's face. However, let's get into some more important things to discuss. Rainier was the name of that fallen angel, Sir Zex says. Issei was shocked when hearing this woman known about the fallen angels that had killed him. Name? Sir Zex had gotten the information about the woman from Drake while Issei was snoozing away. Yeah, Issei said. I hate to say this, but she killed you because of a sacred gear which you have. If you're wondering what a sacred gear is, well, they're tools created by the original father of the three factions, angels, fallen angels, and devils, to allow for humans to stand a chance against some of these supernatural beings. You were unfortunate to have such tools which made you a target, Sir Zex says. Absorbing all of the information, Issei looked at his right hand with slight anger. He remembered what Rainier had told him before dying, blaming God for such a weapon. While dying, I was somehow teleported in front of you, Sir Zex says. Issei quickly began remembering a certain Batgirl cosplayer giving him a certain piece of paper. Not wanting for you to such die a death, I decided to give you another chance in life. However, in exchange, you'll have to be my servant, specifically my pawn, for the rest of your life, Issei Hyodo. You're now a devil of the Lucifer Parage. The silence was all to be heard between the two. So, you gave me another chance in life for serving you? Issei says. Sir Zex nodded. Issei didn't know what to feel about this. Serving someone was a terrible idea, but he was at death's door and she did save him. Also, so far she hadn't done anything terrible to him. Honestly, she had done an amazing thing for him, which was giving him another chance at life. Okay, Issei says. Now, I did make a promise with myself to make sure you're prepared for the supernatural world, Sir Zex says. Wait. You did say I was a devil now, right? Issei replies. Yes. What benefits did I get for turning into a devil? A stronger body and more magic. Yes, actual magic, Sir Zex says. Woohoo! Yeah, baby, that's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Issei was flailing his arms in the sky with satisfaction. Are you able to summon your sacred gear, Sir Zex says? Issei heard those words and remembered the red gauntlet in his right arm before he was finally killed by his ex-girlfriend. It was most likely activated by his desire to live. Now that Issei thought about that moment, closing his eyes and forcing himself to feel anger, remembering the image of his ex-girlfriend was enough to feel his pure rage. Boost! The red gauntlet was finally on his hand. Sir Zex looked extremely satisfied with the results. Step 1 was completed, leaving Step 2 to be completed today. Now, I'll be breaking your body until tomorrow morning. Don't worry about school, I'll sort that out, Sir Zex says. Sir Zex stated. While Issei was laughing when listening to those words, she didn't mean that, right? Better be prepared because your vocal cords won't be the same after today, Sir Zex says. Am I interrupting something? Drake said. That was the dragon from his dream. The voice was basically the same. No, I was just going to beat Issei until his bones break, Sir Zex says. In that case, beat his ass, young Zex, Drake says. Wait, why was the dragon inside of his gauntlet on the woman's side? Hey, aren't you? Issei says. No, I will always be on the side of justice. Beat his ass twice, young Zex, Drake says. Issei slowly shifted his head to see Sir Zex with a creepy smile. Let the games begin. Her aura quickly erupted, lifting red hair. And that is the end of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. Adjusting. Huge explosions noises could be heard in a massive room behind a massive door. This was Lucifer's enormous training room, the same room which she trained in ever so often to release his stress or remain in her prime, a wide open area filled with the flat surface of rock and dirt. The room itself was easily as large as a few football fields, stacked next to each other, while the walls of the room were built for supernatural resistance. Woods filled with magic resistance metal that would prevent supernatural destruction from affecting those outside the proximity. The room itself was a massive cube box. One side was large as the other side. This was the best area to train in besides the deserted areas such as deserts. Issei, needless to say, was on the ground, broken, damaged, and was coughing up blood after such an intense fighting match. At least for him, surrounding him was a massive crater. Debris continued impacting his body at a high momentum, further aiding Surzek's propose on training. Issei gradually lifted his head to glimpse at Surzek, who was descending onto the ground while more slowly staring at him. Moving his hand, lifting his right arm slowly crawl out of the crater, Issei finally fell face first from pain. "Is it over?" Issei says. He croaked while rolling over to grab his gut, which easily had a few broken bones. It wasn't so pleasant for the poor boy to be beaten by such drastic instructor. However, Surzek was finally seeing the damage she had done to the boy. The excuse of trying to make him adapt to the life of a warrior in a supernatural world won't be working this time. Issei was finally coughing out a miniature school of blood. Surzek was seriously beginning to show major concern for the health of her pawn. Healing was essential. She immediately broke out of the gaze and responded to the poor boy's question. "Fine, you may rest. I'll try and heal you up," Surzek said. Surzek's Lucifer wasn't even trying during their match, but she was impressed with the development of Issei, from being a human without a sacred gear to one with a Longinus, and was able to boost a few times during the entire time. "Thank goodness," Issei says. Issei, with the slim opening of his right eye, the only one that was open without blood oozing into the opening, watches beginning to lose consciousness. Laying his head into a pool of blood that he formed, Surzek's Lucifer knew that she may have gone a bit too far, but breaking the boy's bones was necessary for a development with the boy's body, allowing for his body to fully recover without any lingering issues of a human, and a devil blood fighting with each other. "Issei," Surzek says. She immediately appeared beside him to see his condition. Judging by his injuries, she had thought that he had died from suffering from the pain. "Thank goodness," she sighed in relief. He was only unconscious while taking a short nap. Grabbing onto the child, she quickly saw the red gauntlet appear on the right hand of Issei. The dragon wanted to speak. "The brat did far better than I expected. He at least put in some effort instead of passing out on the spot when seeing your sadistic smile. At least he wasn't a bitch," Drake said. Surrounding it, if he wasn't impressed by the weakling, Surzek was amused by such a detail. Just a few hours ago, the dragon had acknowledged Issei as a proper and well-sophisticated host. Approaching the door, Surzek quickly used some magic to repair the damage done in the room. "Well, you can't really blame him. He was basically a human with no powers a day ago," Surzek said. "So what? Humans can still reach great heights. Just because a person is human doesn't mean they are completely useless. Humans have math and science to solve problems, while we supernatural use our imaginations. It's two sides of the same coin," Drake says. "You know what I meant," Surzek replied. "Well, take care of my host for me," Drake says. The old dragon quickly went deeper inside of the sacred gear. Surzek looked at the sleeping form of Issei with some hope, and that he doesn't get absolutely demolished when fighting. Being in her barrage meant one thing: enemies will come in vast quantities. Many of them are easily threats to some ultimate class beings. Issei was the lowest of the low class. He has a long journey of pain and suffering because Surzek was going to make sure that he would get mentally straight, to grow strong and work hard. Time skip. Huge time skip. "Holy shit, is this the main living room?" Issei says. "No, it's a bathroom," Drake replied. Drake sarcastically responded to Issei's question with annoyance, but his surprise when seeing Issei actually beginning to think that Drake was telling the truth, he mentally facepalmed and lost more brain cells. "Of course it's a fucking living room. Where's the toilet? Where's the bathtub? Think, Issei, think!" Drake says. Issei shivered in Drake's tone. Okay, maybe he was right. This was certainly not a bathroom. There was no room for him. Finally catching up to Surzek, who skipped the entire way after recovering from Surzek's healing quick, which she hadn't told him. Now she healed him for some reason. Issei was immediately forced into getting some breakfast. Surzek had stated that he would be working every minute would count in his progress to adapting to the supernatural world. However, he was now standing in front of the living room. The living room itself was easily half the size of a football field, while the couches, which were cubic shaped, were placed in the middle proportion to the shape of the room. Circling a massive rectangular table, most of the room was filled with such furniture. On the front wall, perpendicular to the hallways, there was a massive 120-inch television. Issei was, needless to say, drooling in such a beautiful television screen. Seeing this reaction, Sir Zex chuckled and decided to have some fun. Yeah, it's nothing too big. Compare this to other noble family houses, and then this would be just an average home. I didn't want to go too overboard with the size, Sir Zex says. Issei was shocked beyond belief. This was just an average room compared to other noble families? His jaws was basically on the floor, while his eyes widened to a degree which he never thought would be possible. Still, it's far larger than any human home I have ever seen, Issei says. Issei, hurry up, Sir Zex replied. Sir Zex motioned to him to follow her orders to the kitchen. Issei wondered how large the kitchen was going to be. He was expecting a decently large kitchen proportion with how large the living room was, judging by his own kitchen in relationship with his living room. Walking along the hard wooden surface, Issei made his way towards the corner of the living room, more specifically the right corner. Once arriving, Issei turned to see the kitchen. Immediately his jaw dropped onto the floor. Holy hell, Issei says. The kitchen was easily just as large as the living room. The entire kitchen was massive. It also held a massive fridge which could house the amount of food necessary for an entire week for a family. Issei watched as Sir Zex smiled in pride. Walking along towards the fridge, she asked him for another important question. Issei, I'll cook some breakfast for both of us. Don't expect the food to be the highest of quality, Sir Zex says, shrugging her shoulders, kind of laughing. Sure, food is just food. It's just to fill ourselves, Issei says. For the next few minutes, Issei had to wait for his breakfast to be served to him. When seeing the plate filled with pancakes, Issei smiled, knowing the food didn't change from the human world. After finishing their breakfast, Sir Zex stretched before finally walking away. Issei, how about some more training with me? That's if you want to train, Sir Zex says. Issei heard the words and beginning to contemplate with himself. He wanted to stay and rest for a little longer. It only had been a few hours since his first training session, but now he had a choice to reject the training session. While thinking, Issei heard the dragon inside of his mind. It turned out that he was an ancient being that well respected by the natural world. Partner, what would you do besides train with her? This is a foreign area to you. A wrong step and death awaits you. Right now, you're just a sitting duck. 2 boosts aren't enough just to make you behemoth, Drake says. Issei went to retort to the ancient dragon's word, but stopping himself and thinking about what he said, there literally wasn't anything that he could currently do in the foreign area. Sir Zex was beginning to get a little impatient with Issei's choice, but still kept it in his mind, dragging inside of him a child's mind. Issei, with great difficulty, slowly risen himself to his feet and shifted his attention back to his king. Sir Zex was beginning to regain some hope, and Issei was going to say, fine, I'll come along, just don't hurt me as much as you did before, Issei says. Sir Zex cheered with glee. She wasn't going to train alone, even if Issei was going to be a hindrance. She wouldn't mind slowing her training down for someone to be there to speak with her, especially when she was taking an urgent break from the paperwork. Sir Zex knew that the paperwork would eventually come, but she would allow for time to tell when Grafia will stop towards her way and drag her by the ear, painfully, rushing towards Issei in a burst of excitement, grabbing him and swinging him around and hugging him. She was extremely excited. Issei, once realizing the predicament he was in, began blushing sincerely. He hadn't been this close to a woman besides his mother. Could you please let me go? Issei says. Sir Zex immediately released Issei on her hold. When coming back to reality, she smiled nervously when realizing what she had done. I am sorry. I was just excited about this, Sir Zex says. What Issei didn't know was the people don't train with Sir Zex Lucifer because of the fear of her accidentally getting agitated and disintegrating her training partner. The power difference between Sir Zex and his Satan class was so massive, Sir Zex could easily fight on par with beings in the top 10 beings on the supernatural list. Comparing her to Seraphal, who was easily weaker than some simple gods, the difference became noticeable and fear of being Sir Zex's training partner was apparent. Let's go, Sir Zex says. She grabbed him and dragged him along the floor until they reached the training ground once more. And that is the end of Chapter 3, Adjusting. And that is where we're going to stop for now, right at the end of Chapter 3. I know he's not exactly overpowered yet, but please stick with the story. It's really, really good. And this story is also just a distraction story for my next series, Issei the God Killer is Born. I cannot wait. This will be a fully edited series by myself. I decided to take the time to learn how to edit because I finally can, because I don't have athletics, school, and things at the time. I get to take like a 2-week break from training because I do track, so it's basically all year round training. So I'm taking like 2 weeks off. Not really 2 weeks. I'm kind of training. I'm lying to myself, but like, yeah, it's 2 weeks to me because I don't run as much. I'm just like lifting a ton. So Issei the God Killer is born. The first episode will be called What If Issei Was Betrayed and Trapped in the Dimensional Gap. Now, be very prepared for the story because that will be the first title, but part 2 will be called Issei the God Killer is Born. It's going to be different titles, but don't worry, it'll be called part 2, part 1. So you can, and I'll create a playlist for the series, of course, like I do with many others. What if Goku was betrayed and trapped in a parallel dimension? Will also be coming with full images and fully things, and also over on my Ann Palpowski channel, my second channel, please hit the subscribe button there. I will also be doing a bunch of what ifs on Goku and many other characters, but I want to do what if Goku was betrayed and trapped in the dimensional, and trapped in a different dimension on here, because it'll be fully edited and I put my full force effort into it. On Ann Palpowski, my Dragon Ball what ifs will be somewhat subtile, and I'm also going to put like 100% effort into it, but just not as much as Spartanic, because Spartanic is like my bread and butter right now, and I love it. So, What If Naruto Was Betrayed will be coming back, so don't even trip. I just wanted to get that out there. But seriously, that, like, I edited like 30 seconds of my video for Issei the What If Issei Was Betrayed and Trapped in the Dimensional Gap. And I only have about 30 seconds of the video done, but it took me like an hour to edit because I'm just learning how to edit as well. So hopefully I can get that video out by like Thursday by the time I leave, which would be crazy. But thank you guys so much for the support. Of course, shout out to my balance breakers again. If you want to become a balance breaker, it is the $24.99 one at the end of the month. I know it is kind of a hefty price to pay, but you can always join the $0.99, $4.99, or $9.99. And you don't always have to give me money, guys. Don't worry about it. I'm just asking because it's really nice and it really does help me out as a broke college student. You guys know the struggle. So, also my birthday, I will be gone the 19th through the 24th for my little birthday thing. It is my 21st birthday because I am in college and I'm going to be a junior next year, so it's kind of crazy to think about this. Once again, thank you for all the support. I really do appreciate you guys. I cannot thank you enough. Once again, thank you to all my balance breakers. I already said your guys' name at the beginning of the video and the image has popped up before. So, without further ado, Spartanic Arts, DXD out. Let's try to hit 100 likes, by the way.